Here we go. Okay. So, for those of you who know me, this will be a refreshing introduction. Some of you do not. So, I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself for a moment. My name is Vanika Lewis. I am the founder of Pretty and Purpose. My goal with the business that I'm slowly and steadily growing is to help women really gain clarity around who God has called them to be and what God has called them to do, and then understand what that looks like in action in their personal lives. Goal setting is huge when it comes to pursuing purpose, because you have to have clarity around where you're going and then action steps on how to get there, which is what we're going to dive into tonight. But personally, I had a period of time where I was just all over the place, you all. There were several things that I was passionate about. And so I tried and tested a lot of things, and I wasn't ever really successful. I kind of then began to get clarity around what God wanted me to do, but I still wasn't reaching the desired success that I wanted to. And what I realized is it was because I did not have the appropriate tools to really help me hone in on my goals and to manage them in a way that would allow me to be successful. And so through my trial, error, and failure, I began to really apply some of the tools that I'm going to be teaching you tonight. Okay. So understand that I ain't just talking out the side of my neck while I'm presenting this to you. It is something that I absolutely have applied and still do apply today. All right. So let's dig into this thing. So, first and foremost, why are goals important? Because you hear people talk about them all the time, but nobody really breaks down why goals are important. And the answer to that is they provide direction. They literally guide you to help you get to your desired destination. So, what that looks like, right, is maybe you want to be a teacher, but currently you're a student. And your vision is to become a thing, right? Another example is you may currently be an employee for someone, but one day you desire to be a boss. You see yourself having your own business, launching a brick and mortar, something to that effect. Maybe personally, you're currently single and you like, I'm tired of being single in these streets. Your girl want to get married one day, right? That's a vision. That's a desire that you have, a place where you see yourself one day. And maybe, again, on a personal level, you're overweight and you desire to be fit and healthy. Essentially, what you should be assessing when you're looking at goals is where you are, what's your starting place, and then where you desire to be, where you want to go. And the goals are the steps in between. It's the actual process of you bringing to life where you desire to see yourself in the future. Okay. So the process and what that looks like is, first and foremost, you absolutely have to have a vision. You need to know where you see yourself, right? And how you see yourself in the future. If you don't have vision, your goals won't work, because you're applying them to something that you aren't clear about. All right. So you first and foremost have to have vision. You have to understand where it is you're trying to go. Once you have the vision, then you can actually establish goals, right? And that's the action you take to reach the visionary destination. Next, you begin to actually work the goals that you've established, and you're going through the process. So you're progressing and tracking how well you're actually accomplishing those goals. And then you reach success. And that's when you've actually reached the place where you desire to be and where you see yourself. Okay. Now, the other thing that's important to know is you never really reach a place where you're just done and that's it. But as you kind of begin to accomplish goals and you check some things off of your list, that's when you can go back to the drawing board and say, okay, I've reached that desired thing that the Lord has shown me. Now what's next, right? But what you should never do is progress without first accomplishing the thing that he's giving you from the very beginning. Okay. So again, the process here is have a vision, establish goals, progress through the goals, and then ultimately reach success. The last key point I really want to highlight here is success is variable. Success is variable. You cannot take someone else's success and attribute it to your own life, because God has a specific plan and purpose for you. And so if you are trying to apply someone else's success to your life, again, you will fail in your goals because you're trying to pursue something that really is not for you. Okay, so success is variable, and that's, again, it's so important to understand that. You have to know what the vision is for your life. Okay. The next question that often comes up is, how can I set real and attainable goals? So beyond just kind of vague goals, how can I really make them real and attainable? And the answer here is by using the SMART and PDSA tools. And these are two tools that I'm getting ready to break down for you. Both of these, believe it or not, are tools that I learned in my professional career. So I have been working in healthcare now for almost 15 years, and I work in the area of quality improvement. So we are actually consistently mapping out goals for the healthcare systems. Now, what's funny is all these years I've been in healthcare, it took a long time for me to understand that these tools that I was using day in and day out in my job actually also applied to my personal life. And so once I understood and made that correlation, it was a game changer. All right. So SMART goals here. I'm not going to spend too much time here. I'm going to go over this very quickly. Know that I also have a YouTube video breaking down SMART goals. So if you want to refresh and kind of get more detail on this, you can actually watch the video that I have there. But SMART is an acronym, and the S stands for specific. So it's really important to make sure that your goals are as clear and specific as possible. All right. Vague goals will have you lost. They'll have you lost. So you need to be very specific and as detailed as possible. The more details, the clearer you are in regards to what you need to do. Next, the M is for measurable. Okay, measurable. It's saying what evidence will prove that you're making progress. So is there a dollar amount? Is there a pound associated maybe with your weight loss? How can you establish a number system that will help you determine if you're actually making progress? Right? So there needs to be some evident way of tracking if you're doing better. Think about this, right? With your kids, if kids are in school, generally, if a child is failing, it may take a while for them to be able to get to a point where they're passing the class. So the way that you measure their progress is you're going to tell them, I need you to bring me home a progress report each week. Or you're going to say, I want to see your scores on your homework and your test results. So it's a way for you to measure in between to see if they're progressing or moving in the right direction. So you want to have a way to measure your progress. The A is for achievable. So have you set an achievable goal? Okay. For example, I would love to be a millionaire, but if I said I want to become a millionaire in 1 month, that's not really an achievable goal. That's something that may happen by happenstance, but it's not something that I can intentionally do. It's not realistic. So you want to make sure that the goals that you're setting for yourself are achievable as well. Don't set yourself up for failure. Don't set yourself up for failure. Okay. The R is for relevant. So are the goals that you're setting relevant to the vision that you've outlined? Okay. So if I'm saying that my ultimate desire is to be an entrepreneur, okay, and I want to launch a business, be it virtual, be it brick and mortar, whatever, I don't need to be hopping around from job to job applying for a whole bunch of different jobs, because that's not in line. It's not relevant to the vision that I have for my life. What I should be doing is sticking my feet in where I am, right? And managing my finances in a way that's setting me up to be able to transition into the role of an entrepreneur. So are your goals relevant to what your vision is? And lastly, is it time-based? Is your goal time-based? To say that you want to achieve something, but you don't have a time associated with it is another way to set yourself up for failure. That's just as bad as having lofty goals that are not achievable. So you want to tell yourself, is this going to happen in 30 days, 60, 90 days? Is it 1 year? You can even go out as far as 5 years. Okay. But whatever you do, you have to set a time, and that's how you're going to hold yourself accountable. So this is the method of and tool of using SMART acronym to set goals. The next tool that I want to share with you here is called PDSA. Okay. PDSA. And I have a blog post about this on my website, which I'll share with you all as well. And it breaks down actually a dating scenario and how this can be applied personally. But PDSA stands for plan, do, study, and act. And what this is, it's a process that you will continuously go through as you measure your goals. Okay. So you plan, you have a vision, you plan the goal using the SMART acronym. You map out your goal. You implement the goal. That's the step 2, the do phase. As you implement the goal, you should be stopping at some point to assess your progress. And that's why using the SMART acronym is important, because you'll have identified how you can already measure your progress. So you should be stopping and studying, how well am I doing, right? If you say, I'm doing good and things are moving according to plan and I'm within the time frame that I've set, then you just keep acting. You keep doing what you've originally set out to do. But if during the study phase, you identify that something is off, you're not making the progress that you should be making, you aren't hitting your mark, then you should revert back to the planning phase. Don't keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a successful result. You know what the definition of that is: insanity. You crazy, because you're doing something that you know does not work. So you want to plan, do, study your progress, adjust as necessary, and then act. So this should be a continuous cycle of improvement. So utilizing these 2 tools, SMART and PDSA, will help you to ensure that you're setting real and attainable goals. Okay. So what does that look like? All right. And here's where I have some examples for you, because if some of you, Pastor always says, my husband, teach you where you can reach it. So I want to paint some real examples for you to understand this. So the first example that I have here is around health, right? That's very common. A lot of people, especially at the top of the new year, after holidays, and I know some people don't put on some COVID pounds. So they're going to be like, I want to lose some weight. All right. So what this looks like in action is your vision would be, my goal is to be healthy and full of enough energy to keep up with my kids. So that's the vision. That's the ultimate vision. All right. Now you need to establish goals. Well, how do I do that? Right? I can do that by losing 30 pounds over the next 6 months. I will do this by working out 3 times a week, meal prepping, and getting adequate rest. So now you've set a goal, right? You want to lose 30 pounds. Now you need to establish kind of what that looks like. How do you measure your progress using what you've written out? So the first thing would be you want to get adequate rest. So how are you actually measuring how much sleep you're getting? Utilizing something like your iWatch or your phone for just a week can help you identify your sleep patterns. So you can be saying, well, I want to get adequate rest because I know resting helps my body heal, but you're only sleeping 3 hours a night. that's not adequate rest. But how will you really know your patterns unless you track it, right? So using something as simple as a watch or a phone is a great way to track the sleep pattern. Next, within the goal, it says that you want to meal prep, or this person wants to meal prep. Well, meal prepping, again, is something that has to be very intentional, right? So you want to schedule a time to prepare your meals. Sundays are a great day. It's at the start of every week. You can have it consistently, right? Here, a great thing to do would be to journal and document your progress each week. Did I meal prep? What was in my meal prep? Did I actually eat my meal prep for the week, or did I cheat by letting my meal go bad and buying some fast food along the way? So documenting that allows you to determine, did I actually do what I set out to do? And was I consistent with it? Okay. And then ultimately, you're saying you want to lose 30 pounds. So that means if you want to lose 30 pounds in 6 months, you should at least be losing 5 pounds each month in order to reach your goal. The best way to determine that is to weigh yourself at the very start of things, and then on a weekly, consistent basis moving forward to monitor your progress. So you have a vision, you have a goal, and then you have actual action steps that allow you to implement that goal and measure your progress at the same time. If you follow those steps, at the end of the 6 months, you should have successfully reached your goal. If you haven't, this is where the PDSA tool comes into play. So maybe you get to the end of that 6 months and you realize, wow, I've only lost 20 of the 30 pounds that I set out to lose. Well, now you can actually go back through the things that you've used to measure and study to see where you may have a gap. So because you measured your sleep, because you've documented your meal prep and your weight loss, you can see, you know what? I missed 2 weeks of meal prepping. And during those 2 weeks where I missed the meal prep, I didn't lose the weight that I was supposed to lose in those 2 weeks, right? I failed. I had a gap there. Then you can also look at your sleep time and say, you know what? I can see I was doing really well when I was getting sleep here. But when I took on that extra work or that extra project at work, I wasn't getting adequate sleep, and it impacted how I was eating and working out. So because you have a measurement and a place of documentation, it allows you to assess if you didn't hit the goal, where you may have stumbled or fallen off track. But without these things, you'll never reach that goal. A lot of people say, I want to lose weight. I'm just going to eliminate this sugar, right? They just say it. They don't monitor it. They don't check it. They don't assess their progress. And before you know it, they're back drinking sodas and eating candy again. So utilizing these tools are really important. There's another example I want to give you here, and this one is business related. So I wanted to give you a personal example and then to give you a business example as well. Okay. So the business example here is the vision is to start a business that generates additional income to cover family expenses. Because believe it or not, most people do not want to jump directly from a job or a 9-to-5 into a full-time business. Most people begin the journey because they realize that there's some type of gap in where they are and where they desire to be. So initially they start with just wanting to kind of fill that gap. So I knew that this is a very common circumstance. So here we are again, the vision to start a business that generates additional income to cover family expenses. The goal is over the next 6 months to generate $6,000 selling a new book and t-shirts. That sound about right? Head nod. Y'all hear this often, right? So what that would look like in the progress phase. You have a overarching vision and goal. So now it's how do I, put that into action? So simple mathematics. If you know that each book costs $5 to produce and you sell it for $15, that's a $10 profit margin. So you can say if I sell 65 books each month, I can generate $3,900 in 6 months. That will require you to order any materials you need in advance and have a way of tracking your sales each month. Okay, so there's two things here. One is you automatically know $3,900 does not allow you to reach your $6,000 goal. So you have to have another way to supplement that gap. The other thing is paying attention to the investment costs and the actual profit. A lot of people miss that. They'll say, wow, I'm selling a book for $15. I just profited $15. No, you didn't, because there was an investment expense. So this is where being as detailed as possible comes in handy. So the next step would be looking at the second item that you could potentially sell, and that's t-shirts. So let's say the t-shirt costs $5 to produce and you sell it for $25. That gives you a $20 profit margin. So if you sell 18 shirts each month, you can generate $2,160 in 6 months. Again, you would need to order materials and track your sales, but collectively, that will allow you to hit your $6,000 goal. Having a measurement, again, using that SMART method, allows you to actually determine where you may have made a mistake or where your gap is. So if you know this is what you need to do in order to reach your goal, you can look back at your tracking, and say, hey, maybe I didn't hit my $6,000. What happened? Well, 1 month I only sold 40 books. I didn't sell 65. In another month, I only sold 10 t-shirts. I didn't sell 8. Now you can dig a little deeper. What happened on the months where you met or exceeded your goal versus where you didn't? Were you posting more on social media? Did you pay for an ad that month, right? It allows you to do a deep dive and determine where your gaps may be. But you cannot do that if you don't have detailed, SMART goals written out. And these are so, so important, because time and time again, I hear people say, I quit, I wrote out my goals and it didn't happen for me. Well, how did you write your goals? How did you measure your progress? And I'm gonna stop saying people. I'll say me. I was the one that was messing up, right? Because I didn't have the tools in place to make sure that I set goals that were real and attainable. I would just say, I want to write a book and sell it. Well, what does that mean? What's the intention behind it? What's the goal associated with it, right? So utilizing those tools are really, really important. My biggest push for you all tonight is to make sure that you are utilizing the SMART method. This SMART method is going to save you. From a personal perspective, it's going to save you a lot of heartache and frustration. If it's from a business perspective where you're establishing goals, it's going to save you a lot of money and mistakes. Okay, so you really, really want to use that. All right. Now, what I want to do now, because this is where I believe the bread and butter is I would love to have a couple of you who are willing to volunteer. Tell me about some things that you're desiring to accomplish next year. And I want us to really talk through how you can map that goal out utilizing the SMART method and the PDSA tool. So I want a couple of brave souls, if you can. You can do a thumbs up, or you can comment in the comment section to let me know. Okay, I see Ayana. Let's start with you. Ayana. And then I need 2 other people. I want 2 other people to volunteer. Don't be acting scared with me. Y'all already know how I am. Okay, I see Amber and Vernice. Perfect. All right, so let's do Ayana, then we'll go Vernice, and then we'll go Amber in that order, okay? So Ayana, you could go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, so my first goal is that I want to drop my mortgage by 30,000 in 2021.
Okay. So you want to drop your mortgage by 30,000. You said by what time frame?
By December 2021.
Okay. So naturally, let me just write this out real quick. 30,000. Okay. So you got a calculator?
I do.
Okay. So naturally you already know 30,000 divided by 12, because that's going to give you 1 year, is that's $2,500 a month, right?
Correct.
And now by mortgage purposes, what you're essentially saying is, I want to do this. This is in addition to your primary mortgage payment.
Correct.
So you're going to make a payment on this in addition to your regular payment so that it doesn't have those fees. Now, do you know how you're going to get the $2,500?
Yes.
What are you going to do?
So I have a rental property, and from the rental property, about $1,400 comes in from the rental property.
Okay.
And then on top of that, I personally am sending them $2,800 because I factor in like the insurance and the interest and everything else. So I personally send them $2,800 on top of the 1,400 that comes from the additional rental property.
Okay. So with the 14, you said 14 and 28?
Correct.
So that's at what? That's 4. So with that 4 that you're sending them, how much of that is your regular mortgage payment?
$1,083.60.
Okay. So you are absolutely covering that extra 2,500 then. Okay. So you good then. So your smart, your vision is the 30,000. I want to reduce my mortgage payment by $30,000 at the end of 2021. And then your actual written goals is that you're going to use your rental property income to supplement the gap.
Correct.
Now, have you had any issues over the last 2 years? Have you had the rental property longer than 2 years?
Yes, I've had it for 3 years.
Okay, and you haven't had any gaps or issues with the rent over those 2 or 3 years?
There's been a little fluctuation. There was a flood that put it out of commission for about 4 or 5 months. But
Did your
after that,
insurance cover that though?
no, I paid for it out of pocket.
Okay. All right. So yeah, your only thing, because you have a steady, consistent method of getting that chunk of change, you don't have to pull it from multiple areas. You're pretty good. Your only gap would be preparing for any emergency.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I try to save money from my regular check as well to be able to fund any gaps that take place.
I love it. Come on, financial guru. Y'all, she deserve a hand clap on that one. You are killing it. Some people still trying to get a mortgage in general. You over here with a rental property and trying to pay off another one. Come on in.
I'm trying.
Not trying, you're doing. You are doing, okay? I love it. All right, so yeah, you are good then. You're good. Let's move over to Vernice.
Good evening, everyone.
Hey, business owner, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm over here. I've been teaching SMART goals forever, but now to be on the other end of it, I'm,
Uh-huh.
I don't know what to say.
Now, let me ask you this. Have you been teaching it from your workplace?
I've been teaching it from my consulting perspective,
Ah, okay.
consulting managers.
Yep. I think it's so funny how we learn tools in our professional spaces, but forget sometimes how to apply them in our personal life.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you all, like one of my greatest revelations has come through doing ministry. You
Mm.
know, it amazed me. It took a couple of years for it to click, but I remember us going to a conference one year. It was a church that we very much admired, and we admired like how they their service was, their first touch, their impressions. And I remember this pastor saying he went to the Disney leadership conference in Florida, and I'm like, I'll go to that conference, right? And he started talking about how he implemented all these things in his church. And I'm like, well, we do all of that at work, but I never thought about applying it to ministry. So a lot of the times we have what we need. We just have to learn how to apply it. So what you working on for next year? Let's hear one of your goals.
Okay, one of my goals is to launch a successful healing platform.
Okay. What does that look like?
That looks like for me to be able to reach 500 women in 2021.
Okay. So 500 women. So I know you've done the calculations. How many women is that each month?
Um, Let me get my count because I haven't done that.
Oh, you didn't do it. Okay. So about 42.
Okay.
So approximately 42. And you said reach them.
Reach them. So I'm
Mhm.
specifically trying to get into like recovery centers, women's shelters, things like that.
So when you say reach them, do you mean I want to put materials in their hand? Do you mean I want to counsel them? What does that look like?
It looks like I would like to facilitate workshops for them.
Okay. So it's more than reach. So you essentially then want to have approximately 42 women successfully sign up and complete a workshop each month. Is
Mm,
that more accurate?
yeah, but the way you put it, no,
Because reaching and
yeah,
completing are two different things.
correct.
Now, the other likelihood, and this is where I say don't set yourself up for failure. And and this is in like I really want your hearts to be in the right places when you're thinking about your goal. Um, we know completion rates and compliance rates, right? So in order for you to um successfully have 42 people register and complete the workshop, that means that you may have to reach 3 times that. Does that make sense?
It does.
So this is where your SMART goal comes into play, and you want to have a point of measure, right? So that could be how you're tracking is you want to look at conversion rates. So based upon how many people I reach and register, what's my conversion rate? How many of them are actually completing the workshop? So after doing that for 2 months, if you say I've reached 100 people, 70 of them have signed up, but only 25 of them are completing the workshop, then the following month I need to up that. I maybe need to reach 200 people, have 130 of them register. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. And that's important. Like and the conversion rates are just, it's just huge. I see that even with sales. People are like, well, I want to sell X number, but every person that you pitch to is not going to become a customer. So you have to expand your reach in order to get that percentage.
Yeah.
Do you know how you plan to have them register? Or will you rely on the partnerships with the places that you contact to do that?
So the interesting thing is that I'm actually, the client will actually be the companies and not individual people.
Okay.
Right? So I'm selling to, you know, drug and alcohol rehabilitation centers and
Hmm.
things like that. So it's very different than having individual people sign up, right?
Got it.
And some of those companies, they own multiple facilities.
Hmm.
So they hire on people to do, to work with multiple facilities. So
So
that's my,
they'll have some footwork that they have to do directly then with the end consumer. So
mhm.
maybe you just build that into your contract.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is payment is due. The expectation is this number of people complete the workshop. And then you put that burden on them so that you're still able to reach your desired goal, but they're held to the fire via the contract. Build
Mm-hmm.
that in as a quality measure. And that's important too, because as a consultant or a contractor, you don't want to be coming in giving 100% and they're only putting in 30, and now you're exhausted because they aren't holding up their end of the bargain. So factor that in up front. You ain't came to play.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, we trying to win this year. I'm telling y'all. Yes. And if it's written in and they know they're accountable to the dollar, they'll show up. They'll show up. And so the other thing would be then, as they complete the workshop, do you plan on having any long-term connections with them? Or are you like, I'm coming in just to do the work and then everything else is back on the company you're working with?
No, I actually want to build relationships with them so that I can do a series of workshops.
Okay. So you'll be collecting their information.
Correct.
So you do still want to have a registration method, even though it's on them to bring the people to you.
Okay. Like a registration method for the agency.
Yes, to be able to provide the contact information to you.
Okay.
And make sure, because you kind of fall almost in that healthcare lane. There are a lot of web tools, like even Zoom now. There's a certain account that you could purchase that's HIPAA compliant, right? So factor that in as well, so that they can be ensured that the information being transferred meets their standards too.
Thank you.
Yep. Is that helpful?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Cool. You got some big things popping next year. I can't wait. Bernie, look at Bernie's face. No, we excited about this. This is the vision that God has given you. This is where he is calling you to. It's some hard work, but man, the rewards will be so worth it. All right. So we had Ambra.
Hi, ladies.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. So share with us one of your goals for next year.
Health. I'm going to start with health.
Okay.
So staying consistent. So my goal for 2021 is to lose 30 pounds.
Okay.
Um,
For the year?
yes,
Okay.
I wrote down for the year. I said sometimes you got to start off small. I
Yep.
mean, like the key points you said, make sure they're attainable.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking about just starting off small. So I say for the whole year instead of 6 months.
That's good.
Yeah. Um, I don't have an issue with exercising. I have an issue with the diet.
Okay.
So getting the diet intact, like you
How will
said.
you do that? So if that's an area of weakness for you, How can you build accountability into that goal?
I think I'm gonna use one of the tools here displayed, journaling,
Mm-hmm.
documentation. So documenting my meals weekly.
Do you have a person that you trust that can call you on the carpet when you are not sticking to your goal?
Oh yeah, I have one.
Okay.
Yes, I have one. Hmm.
So how about this?
Hmm.
Because I'm a foodie and the struggle is real in these streets. Oh,
Yes.
y'all. Um,
In this house, working from home.
the struggle is, how about I came back to work today and somebody had set like a 3-pound bag of Ghirardelli chocolate on my desk with a Merry Christmas note. You and your chocolate need to kick rocks. Don't be
Right.
setting me up.
Right.
Don't do me. This should have been a whole department gift. Don't come sitting on my desk.
Right.
They wrong.
Right.
They wrong. Um,
Right.
so accountability is huge, and your breakthrough will likely come through vulnerability. That is something that I did not mention with setting goals. But a lot of times we keep our goals private because
Hmm.
if we fail, there is nobody that can make us feel shamed or hold us accountable to it. And Vernice could probably add to that. I know there is a psychological aspect of feeling like a failure, right? So having someone that you know loves you, that knows you well enough where they would have good intentions with you.
Hmm.
If you are okay, an awesome step would maybe be to share your journaling with them and have conversation about it, because they may be able to help point out some things that you can't see.
Share journaling. Okay.
Make sure
To
it's a
help.
very trusted source, though. Um,
Hmm.
a very trusted someone, again, that you know has healthy intentions and is in this thing for you to be better. You don't want to be vulnerable in a space that could actually spiral you to going back to maybe even emotionally or unhealthy eating. So make sure
Okay.
it's a safe space.
Okay.
All right. So 30 pounds by the end of the year. Did you do the calculations already?
So it's like about 4 pounds a month, I think.
Okay. So about, yep. That's you actually a little that'll get you a little more than 30, but that'll be good.
Hmm.
So and then break it down even smaller. One, if you do 4 pounds a month, one a week, right?
Right. Right.
And then give yourself some leeway.
Okay. And let me see. Oh, I guess I'll send this over to you. Have a different question, but I'll send that to you privately.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, I want to hear from one more person. Who gonna speak up?
Hi, Vanika. It's Tashari. Uh,
Hey, Shari.
so I came in late. I really should be saying that my number one goal is being on time because that is a huge problem to me.
Mm-hmm.
But the goal that I started working on this year that I hope to knock it off the park is to buy a bigger home for my girls and I. And so that's going to be my 2020 focus. And I'm sorry that because I came late, I don't know more that I'm supposed to do on this share out, but I wanted to since I'm here in presence and hearing the advice that you gave the last three ladies, I wanted to share that.
Okay. I love that. So a bigger home. So you already have one property that you're in, right?
Correct. I moved out and rented it out so that I could get some income off of it and then also not have it as a liability when I go to qualify for the next home.
Okay. So it's actually, so the one you own is already a rental property.
Correct.
Okay. Cool. Um all right. So since you've been through the home buying process, right? There are steps that you'll need to take. So first and foremost, it'll be establishing how much you can afford and what potential expenses and down payment will look like.
And
So
that is the tricky part right there.
mhm,
That's the tricky part because what I dream to have and what I can afford to have isn't quite matching up. So right now I'm trying to pray for the Lord to one provide abundantly more, but also change my perspective that I know the difference between my needs and my wants, and be able to shift through that as I go through the home buying process.
okay. So again, setting, using a SMART tool, right? So that's something we talked about, being very specific, measurable. A place that you can start is, you want to buy by the end of the year, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Um, I would recommend start off by reaching out to a couple of agents. Ask them based upon the current market, how long is it taking to close on homes right now? So that's
Mm-hmm.
going to give you first and foremost a time frame of approximately how long the closing process will take. So if they tell you that, in the current market, expect for the closing process to take at least 45 to 60 days. If you want to have this accomplished by the end of the year, for sure you're not wanting to wait until November to begin that process, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you want to give
Mm-hmm.
yourself enough time for that. Ask them to help you. Many of them do not mind walking through and helping you develop a list of needs versus wants in a home.
Mm-hmm.
One, because they're going to want to sell themselves as your agent,
Mm-hmm.
right? But also it's their area of expertise, and most people like talking about their area of expertise. But with that, they can also help you really identify, not based upon just your wants, but what your needs are in a home, what you could be looking at cost wise, which will drive your down payment,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So
Definitely.
start getting very, very specific. And then you want to utilize the T in the SMART, which is time associated.
Mhm.
So this can be a long process. So maybe you tell yourself within 60 days of the start of the new year, so somewhere about the end of February, the top of March, you should have already identified 2 potential real estate agents and set appointment dates with them.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sorry, that's my kids.
no, you good. Start getting that on the calendar. So if
Okay.
by the end of January comes and you've only, you know, written names down, but you haven't made any calls to sit down and talk with them, then you know that you're not progressing on your goal, because your goal was to reach out to 2 people and set 2 appointments. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm noting this now.
Yep. Get very, very specific.
Mm-hmm.
Set a
Because I've been
measurement
working
for
with a
yourself.
realtor, but I do think that I want to go the route of still interviewing others and seeing if they have tools that could better fit what I want next, and then the goals. Sorry.
Mhm.
I probably don't have to tell you about kids in the background.
No, we know all about that. You all good in this space.
So thank you. Is there because I missed the beginning, is there a PowerPoint or anything that could be sent to me, Vanika?
There are
I don't know.
some slides, and I am currently recording this, so it'll be available for a replay.
Okay, thank you
You're welcome.
for your advisement. I think I'm gonna I think from hearing what you just suggested, not only do I want to create a timeline to talk to and interview multiple agents, but I think I want to take that a step further and kind of create like a 6-month plan, so that has different markers that I can check to make sure that, hey, am I keeping up to date and where I want to be in the process?
Yes.
Thank you, Vanika.
Yes. You're welcome. You're welcome. So this is so important, you all. I used to be big on vision boards. I used to love to want to host vision board parties. But what I realized is a lot of people would create a vision board and miss the process of actually mapping out the goals that will lead them to the vision. Now, I don't take away the faith aspect in knowing that, you know, God is able to do exceedingly and abundantly. And sometimes he can accelerate our timeline. He can blow our minds. Like, you know, we'll have these little plans and he'll just far exceed those things. But I do also understand that faith without works, without works is dead. Just sitting around expecting him to miraculously move without you putting any effort in is not cool. So I would love to have him accelerate me as I am already moving rather than be sitting on my butt waiting for a miracle to happen. And that's where goals come into play, and for you to be realistic about it, right? And so what I want to do, we're at 8:08. We have about 20 minutes, and there are a couple other things that I want to share with you, but I would love to hear from you all if this has been helpful for you, and what's one thing so far that's really stood out.
The tools provided to get started, like the steps. So without the proper tools and steps, it's I'm a procrastinator. I can only talk about myself. If I showed you all these things I wrote down since quarantine started, oh, I'm gonna do, and ask me what have I completed? Nothing. So I guess these steps here will help me get out of the procrastination stage, you know, because it's different. These steps, there's like different items to check off as you go, and go back and reference to when you figure out, you know, what happened, you know, if I'm off track a little bit, what I could do to get back on track. So far, that's what I've learned.
That's really, really good. And I'll share again, I'm super transparent. Time management did not used to be my area of expertise. And let's just say I'm growing as an expert in that area. But time management has shifted things for me in a major way, in addition to the tools that I shared with you all as well. And I'll tell you more about that in a second. But Bernice said we gonna confess in these chat hallways about our procrastination. Stella, thank you so much. You said these steps have been really good for you. Teaching, we teach it, we gotta apply it, and that's a big thing. So who else can share? What's one thing that's really stood out for you?
I'll go. This is Keisha, Lady V.
Hey.
Hi. All the information is good. I think what really stood out for me the most is that I have to be consistent. I'm a new mom, so I'm learning how to work from home and be a mom and kind of juggle everything together. And some days is a little bit like hit and miss for me, but I have to be consistent every day with my goal in mind of what I need to complete.
That's good. That's good. You would very much appreciate, okay, so I'm gonna just go into this next section because that's where y'all taking me. If somebody else wants to share, go ahead and do so. One thing that's really stood out for you, I want to hear.
The study portion for me was really helpful because especially just starting a business and when it's become stagnant, going back to see like what could you do better, what's where you need to improve. So I think that's where I'm kind of at right now. So that was really helpful.
Thank you, Shani. Yes, that's big. A lot of us will think that either our goals were just wrong, or, you know, if your business or product or service based, you'll think, well, if I'm not making the progress that I think I should be, then maybe my service isn't any good, or maybe my product isn't any good. And that's not true. It really just could be the method and how you're acquiring new customers, or the method in which you're trying to reach new people. And so you don't quit. And that's the value in that. The study phase is you aren't totally giving up your goal. You're just figuring out, how can I adjust it a little bit? The vision stays the same. The mission and how I get there may shift. All right. So the next thing I wanted to share with you all is just some additional tools for you. So these are platforms where I make things available. So Keish, you mentioned about consistency, right? An episode that I just released on my podcast, which is one of the things here today, I released it, is called Are You Showing Up for Yourself? Are you showing up for yourself? Consistency is another key ingredient to success. Most of the successful people that we see today are not because they are the best in their field or what they do. It's just because they're the most consistent. They show up the most. And ask yourself, are you showing up for yourself? That's huge. So I definitely have podcast episodes. I'm in season 3 now. So there's a ton of information you can go back and listen to. The other thing I want to highlight for you all is my YouTube channel. It's not flooded with a bunch of content, but when I do release content, it is of value. So I have the video up about SMART goals. You can replay that and watch it. I also have another video up about time management. On that video, there's a link where you can download a free time assessment sheet. Okay, a time assessment sheet. And that will allow you to really identify where your blocks of open time are and how you begin to map out non-negotiable time blocks where you are working towards your goals. So these are assets. The other things that I have available here, shameless plug, I just released the Ultimate Purpose Planner for 2021. I think I'm down to like 10 in stock. They keep selling out, which is a good thing. But the Purpose Planner actually has documents and tools built within for you to be able to write out your goals, track and assess them on a monthly and quarterly basis as well. So you can check this information out. And then Amber, I did get your message, so I'll get back to you about that as well. And then the last thing that I want to share here is I kicked off this month a coaching program called the Purpose Collective. The introductory price range is closed and I'm shifting it, but you can still sign up if you are interested. If one of the things that you desire to do is to pursue business and potentially launch a product or a service, I would love to have you join the collective. I'll be doing exclusive training similar to tonight, but more so focused on business aspects of things. So in January next month, we'll be talking about tax readiness. So how can you, from a professional standpoint, prepare your business for tax season? And then we'll be going over other hot topics. So if you think you need accountability coaching in a community to kind of work with, I invite you to check it out. But there is a cost associated because I want you to learn to invest in yourselves. All right. So that is it. I'm almost on time. Look at that. Come on, y'all. Time management. And we got 15 minutes. I am going to stop the recording here. And one moment.